Imagine a woman of extraordinary faith and courage, so deeply devoted to her God and her people that she dares to confront the mightiest military power of her time. Yet, despite the power and inspiration of her story, it remains absent from most versions of the Bible. The Book of Judith, celebrated in Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Ethiopian Orthodox, and Anglican traditions, has been set aside in others, labeled by some as too controversial, and perhaps it is too concerning to include. But why? Why would such an extraordinary narrative, brimming with faith and courage, be cast aside? The Book of Judith opens in a time of immense crisis for Israel. The Assyrian Empire, under the iron rule of King Nebuchadnezzar, seeks to dominate not just territories, but the very souls of nations. This is no empire content with borders or alliances. It demands absolute surrender. Nebuchadnezzar, an unstoppable force of ambition, commands a vast army led by his fearsome general, Holofernes. Holofernes is not just a commander, but a symbol of terror, orchestrating the king's wrath with merciless precision. Town after town crumbles beneath the relentless advance of his forces, leaving Israel defenseless, its cities exposed, and its people's hope fading like a distant memory. Amidst this shadow of despair emerges Judith, a woman of unshakable faith, boundless cunning, and unparalleled bravery. Her story is anything but romanticized. It's raw, intense, and at times deeply unsettling. Judith steps out of obscurity with a purpose so audacious that it defies every societal norm of her time. This is a story not of physical might, but of unwavering belief, sharp intellect, and an indomitable spirit. If you've ever wondered why this powerful account was excluded from so many biblical canons, join us as we delve into the forbidden tale of Judith. Together we will uncover a story steeped in faith, boldness, and divine intervention, one that reveals her as one of the most remarkable and fearless heroines of Scripture. Are you ready to rediscover the forgotten tale of a woman who forever altered the course of history? To understand Judith's story, we must first set the stage. The Book of Judith begins not in Israel, but deep within the Assyrian Empire, a kingdom whose ambition is to bring the entire world under its heel. Nebuchadnezzar, the Assyrian king, demands unquestioning loyalty from all nations under his gaze. When neighboring kingdoms defy his commands, his wrath manifests in a brutal campaign of conquest. Enter Holofernes, the king's trusted general and instrument of devastation. Holofernes is no ordinary soldier. He is the driving force of Nebuchadnezzar's ambition, a figure who inspires dread in the hearts of all who oppose Assyria. As his army marches onward, cities collapse like leaves in a storm, and resistance is met with unspeakable cruelty. By the time Holofernes reaches Israel's borders, his forces are an unstoppable tidal wave, an embodiment of the Assyrian Empire's might. Israel stands on the brink of annihilation, surrounded and outmatched. Its leaders, consumed by fear, falter, their courage giving way to despair. The people of Israel, clinging to the remnants of their faith, begin to question whether God has abandoned them. The scene is set for destruction. Hope seems like a distant, fading dream. And then, in this moment of collective paralysis, a widow from a small, insignificant town steps forward as the most unexpected of saviors. How could one woman, a widow with no army, no weapons, and no training, possibly challenge the might of Assyria? Judith's story unfolds not through brute force, but through faith, boldness, and a wisdom so profound it would shake the foundations of her enemies. Judith is unlike any other figure in the ancient world. Though introduced as a widow, her identity transcends this simple label. She is a woman of extraordinary beauty, deep intellect, and unwavering faith. Her very name, meaning Jewess, or praised, hints at her destined role as a protector of Israel and a defender of its honor. But Judith's strength doesn't lie in physical power or material wealth. Her true weapon is her faith, a force so unyielding that it stands as a counterpoint to the brutality of men like Holofernes. Judith lives in Bethulia, a small town perched precariously on the edge of the Assyrian invasion. While the elders of her town waver in fear, paralyzed by indecision, Judith dares to act. She begins by fasting, praying, and clothing herself in sackcloth, humbling herself before God. Her prayers are not merely for personal guidance, but for the deliverance of all Israel. In her solitude, she seeks divine wisdom, trusting in the power of a God she knows is capable of saving her people. Judith's faith is unshakable, but she is also keenly aware of her people's despair. When the elders of Bethulia begin to lose heart, doubting whether God will save them, Judith's fiery determination cannot be contained. In Judith 8:12, she confronts their wavering faith with boldness, saying, "Who are you to test God today, to place yourselves in the Lord's position?" Her words cut through their fear, reminding them that God's power is not limited by human understanding. In a world where women were seldom seen as leaders, much less as warriors, Judith emerges with a strength not born of societal status, but of an unshakable conviction in her God. She stands before the elders of Bethulia and reminds them of the countless times God has delivered Israel in its darkest hours, declaring with unwavering faith that He will do so again, if only they trust in Him. For Judith, faith is her greatest weapon, and she wields it with a confidence that shakes the foundations of fear. Her message is clear. Their salvation will not come through swords or shields, but through complete surrender to God's will. Yet Judith is not content to simply inspire with words. She has a plan so daring it defies comprehension. It is a mission that will demand courage beyond measure and a willingness to risk everything. Judith's plan is bold. She will go alone into the very heart of the enemy's camp, confronting the brutal General Holofernes himself. The Assyrian army draws ever closer, a tidal wave of destruction threatening to engulf Israel. But Judith remains steadfast. She believes her mission is divinely ordained, that God has called her to this moment and will deliver His people through her. With meticulous care, Judith prepares herself. She removes the sackcloth and ashes of mourning, setting aside her widow's garb. In their place, she adorns herself with fine garments, anoints her skin with fragrant oils, and drapes herself in jewelry that gleams in the moonlight. Her hair is arranged with precision, every detail of her appearance crafted to captivate and disarm. This transformation is no act of vanity. It is a deliberate and strategic act of divine purpose. Judith understands the power of appearances and wields it as a weapon in her holy mission. The people of Bethulia watch in silence, their awe mingled with fear. Some wonder if Judith is walking into certain doom, sacrificing herself to the enemy. But Judith knows what she is doing. Her transformation is not merely physical, it is a spiritual act of preparation. She carries within her a heart fortified by prayer and a faith sharpened by steadfast communion with God. Before she departs, she boldly declares the fate that awaits Holofernes. The Lord has struck him down by the hand of a woman. Under the cover of night, Judith and her maid slip quietly through the city gates, making their way to the Assyrian camp. When the enemy guards spot her, they are struck speechless by her beauty. An unarmed woman walking into their midst is so audacious, so unexpected, that they let her pass without question. She tells them she has fled Bethulia and seeks an audience with General Holofernes, claiming she can provide vital intelligence to secure his victory over Israel. Word of her arrival spreads quickly, and Holofernes, intrigued and arrogant, summons her to his tent. There, Judith begins an intricate dance of faith and deception. She approaches the general with humility, presenting herself as a simple widow seeking refuge. Her words are carefully chosen, weaving a web of half-truths and subtle flattery. She feeds Holofernes' ego, skillfully appealing to his sense of invincibility and divine favor. Holofernes, captivated by her beauty and beguiled by her wit, believes he has found a valuable ally. He is blind to the truth, seeing only a submissive woman who promises to deliver Israel into his hands. But Judith's resolve is unwavering. While the general basks in his arrogance, she remains laser-focused on her mission. Beneath her outward demeanor lies the heart of a lioness, ready to strike when the moment is right. The tension mounts as Judith finds herself deep in the enemy's camp, face to face with the man who has brought terror to countless nations. Holofernes, oblivious to the storm brewing before him, invites Judith to a lavish feast. He is drunk with pride, intoxicated by her beauty, and utterly blind to the danger she represents. Judith, calm and composed, accepts his invitation. Her outward serenity masks the fierce determination burning within her. At the banquet, Judith plays her role flawlessly. She humbles herself before Holofernes, feeding his sense of power and self-importance. The general grows increasingly intoxicated, drinking heavily and reveling in his imagined victory over Israel. To him, Judith is a mere trophy, a spoil of war to be claimed. But to Judith, Holofernes represents everything that threatens her people: the cruelty, the oppression, the unyielding tide of despair. As the night wears on, the camp falls into silence. Holofernes, drunk and complacent, succumbs to a deep stupor. His speech slurs, his eyelids grow heavy, and soon he collapses into a drunken sleep. The moment Judith has been waiting for has arrived. Alone in the heart of enemy territory, standing over the man who embodies the terror facing her people, Judith knows that this is the hour of deliverance. With steady hands and a heart full of faith, she prepares to act. The fate of Israel rests on her shoulders, and she is ready. This night, the story of Judith will be written in courage, faith, and the unshakable belief that God delivers his people through the most unexpected of instruments. The once mighty general lies powerless before her, oblivious to the destiny unfolding in his final moments. Judith, her hands steady and her courage unwavering, lifts his own sword, the sword of the enemy. This weapon, once wielded to terrify and oppress her people, now becomes a tool of divine deliverance in her grasp. With one swift, decisive motion, she brings the sword down, severing his head. The very symbol of Assyrian power is now undone, defeated by the hand of a single woman, a widow from Bethulia. In Judith 13:8, the scripture captures this pivotal moment. She struck his neck twice with all her strength and cut off his head. It is a scene of triumph, an act of divine justice carried out through human bravery. and faith. Judith places the severed head of Holofernes into a sack, and with calm determination, she exits the tent. Under the cover of darkness, she and her maids slip out of the Assyrian camp, retracing their steps back to Bethulia. Relief and triumph fill their journey home. Judith has not only survived, but has also delivered her people from the shadow of annihilation. The enemy's power has been decisively, quite literally, decapitated. At dawn, Judith stands before the gates of Bethulia, holding in her hands the ultimate proof of God's deliverance. As she unveils the severed head of Holofernes to the people, cries of victory and praise erupt from the crowd. Their despair transforms into astonishment, their fear into unshakable faith. Judith's actions, her unwavering courage, and cunning have secured their salvation. She is no longer just a widow or a figure of quiet piety. She has become a living testament to the power of faith and the courage that comes from trusting fully in God. As the sun rises over Bethulia, a new day dawns for Israel. It is not a day of fear, but of triumph. Word of Holofernes' death spreads like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the Assyrian camp. The soldiers, deprived of their leader and symbol of invincibility, are thrown into chaos. Their strength dissolves into terror, and without Holofernes to command them, they scatter in confusion. The once mighty army, which had struck fear into the hearts of nations, crumbles before the news of their general's defeat at the hands of an unarmed woman. The people of Bethulia, who had once cowered behind their walls in fear, rise up with newfound courage. They surge out of the city to pursue the fleeing Assyrians, who, without their leader, are defenseless. What had been a hopeless siege transforms overnight into a stunning victory. The tables turn in a way that defies human understanding, leaving no doubt that this deliverance is the work of God. Judith returns to Bethulia and is greeted with reverence and awe. The elders who once doubted God's willingness to save them now bow before her in gratitude, marveling at her wisdom, bravery, and unwavering faith. She is no longer simply a widow from their midst. She is their heroine, a symbol of divine strength and courage. Her actions have not only saved Israel, but also reminded them of God's boundless power. In Judith 16:13, her victory song resounds across Israel. I will sing to my God a new song. O Lord, you are great and glorious, wonderful in strength, invincible. A massive celebration follows as the people lift their voices in songs of praise and offer sacrifices to God. They honor Judith, recognizing her as the vessel through which their salvation was delivered. Her story becomes a song of courage, a tale sung by generations to come. But Judith's victory is more than just a moment of triumph. It is a profound message to all of Israel. It stands as a reminder that God's strength is made perfect in what the world sees as weakness. Through Judith, God displayed his power in the unlikeliest of vessels. Her courage and faith call out across time, urging us to trust in him, no matter how insurmountable the odds may seem. Yet the story does not end with Judith's triumph. The scriptures tell us that she lived a long life, honored and respected by all. Remarkably, she never remarried. Instead, she remained independent, wholly devoted to God. Judith chose a path few could follow, one marked by deep faith and quiet strength. Her legacy endures as a testament to the heights that faith and courage can reach, inspiring countless generations to place their trust in God, even in the darkest of times. Judith's story is a timeless reminder that when courage is fueled by faith, no force of darkness can prevail. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives. What risks are we willing to take when we believe in God's power? How far are we prepared to go to stand for what we know is right and true? If Judith's story of unshakable faith and unparalleled bravery resonates with you, let us know in the comments. Would you like to hear more about hidden figures like Judith, whose stories reveal the depth and strength of God's providence? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we continue to uncover the powerful, often overlooked figures of the Scriptures. Because Judith's story isn't just history, it's a call to live fearlessly, anchored in faith.